Marcus Schrenker, born on November 27, 1970, was far from an ordinary financial advisor in Indiana. By his mid-30s, he had built an image of success that went well beyond balance sheets and investment portfolios. He owned 2 personal aircraft, drove luxury cars, and lived with his wife and 3 children in a 10,000-square-foot mansion in the affluent waterfront community of McCordsville, Indiana, locally known as Cocktail Cove. Among neighbors, he was admired as the charismatic entrepreneur who had made it. But by late 2008, cracks began to show in the polished facade. The financial crisis eroded client trust, and lawsuits started piling up against his investment firms: Heritage Wealth Management, Heritage Insurance Services, and Icon Wealth Management. On December 30, 2008, his wife Michelle filed for divorce. Around the same time, Schrenker was ordered to pay a $533,000 court judgment tied to fraudulent business practices. His empire was collapsing. The SEC opened inquiries into his handling of client funds, and investors accused him of misappropriation. Facing professional disgrace, financial ruin, and the loss of his family, Schrenker felt cornered. In early January 2009, instead of confronting his mounting legal troubles, he began plotting an extraordinary escape: to fake his own death by crashing his plane, disappearing, and starting over under a new identity. On the evening of January 11, 2009, Schrenker boarded his single-engine Piper Meridian PA-46 at Anderson Municipal Airport, Indiana. His filed flight plan was to Destin, Florida, a route he often flew. What looked like a routine trip was, in fact, the execution of his plan to vanish. Roughly an hour into the flight, over central Alabama, Schrenker radioed a distress call to air traffic controllers. His voice was calm but urgent. He claimed the windshield had imploded and that he was bleeding severely. The transmission immediately raised alarm across aviation channels. What no one knew was that Schrenker had already prepared his escape. He set the plane on autopilot, adjusted its course toward the Florida Panhandle, and parachuted out somewhere near Childersburg, Alabama, under cover of darkness. The empty aircraft continued on until it crashed in a wooded area near the Blackwater River in Santa Rosa County, Florida. Military jets scrambled to intercept the rogue plane, confirmed the shocking reality. The cockpit door was open, and no one was inside. Schrenker's plan was meticulous. After parachuting, he landed in rural Alabama, where he had hidden a red Yamaha motorcycle inside a storage unit. Stocked with supplies and cash, it was meant to carry him south toward Florida. But events quickly unraveled. His disappearance, and the suspicious circumstances of the crash, triggered a full-scale federal manhunt. The FBI, Coast Guard, and local police joined forces to track the fugitive pilot. On January 12th, authorities traced Schrenker to Harpersville, Alabama, where officers spotted him near a campsite. He tried posing as a stranded motorist, but fled before he could be detained. By then, national headlines dubbed him the Houdini of financial fraud and the pilot who vanished. The pursuit ended on January 13, 2009. After 2 tense days, police found Schrenker at a campground in Quincy, Florida. He had attempted suicide by slashing his wrists but was rescued in time. He was taken into custody, hospitalized at Tallahassee Memorial, and later transferred to face federal charges. Federal prosecutors moved swiftly. Schrenker was charged with intentionally destroying an aircraft, issuing false distress signals, and securities fraud linked to his investment schemes. In June 2009, he pleaded guilty to willfully destroying his aircraft and misleading federal authorities. He was sentenced to 51 months in federal prison and ordered to pay over $905,000 in restitution for the massive search and rescue effort he had triggered. The financial crimes, however, carried even greater consequences. In 2010, Indiana courts convicted him of securities fraud, ruling that he had defrauded dozens of clients out of millions. He was sentenced to an additional 10 years in prison, to be served consecutively, and ordered to pay more than $630,000 in restitution. The once celebrated life of wealth and prestige collapsed into prison walls, debts, and public disgrace. By 2015, Schrenker was released on parole, with his official sentence terminating on September 16th of that year. After nearly 6 years behind bars, he returned to a world where his name had become synonymous with greed, deceit, and desperation. His marriage ended in divorce, his businesses were dissolved, and his reputation was permanently destroyed. The case left a lasting cultural imprint. It became a reference point in aviation safety discussions, law enforcement briefings, and crime documentaries, a case study in how desperation can drive individuals to extremes. Schrenker's attempted escape not only endangered lives, but also wasted vast public resources, all in a futile bid to outrun accountability. Marcus Schrenker's story captivated the nation because of its sheer audacity. A financial advisor staging his own death mid-flight, parachuting into the Alabama night, and fleeing on a motorcycle like a Hollywood fugitive. Yet behind the spectacle lay a sobering truth of financial fraud, betrayal of trust, and the devastation of families and communities. The pilot who faked his death remains a cautionary tale of ambition without ethics. A man who believed he could literally escape his problems by jumping from the sky. Instead, his fall was both literal and symbolic, a descent from wealth and influence into disgrace and ruin. If this story shocked you, there's more. Our Rise and Fall series exposes the truth behind the biggest names in tech, money, and media. Subscribe to never miss the next twist.